Welcome to The Adult Table, a podcast where we sit down with people in the SACE and our STEM community. We set the virtual table to bring in a diverse set of guests to engage in a casual conversation on their professional career and life.
With this podcast, we hope that we can bridge the gap between the hierarchy involved with growing up. We can redefine what it means to be able to figuratively sit at the adult table.
I'm one of your co-hosts, Jason Chin.
And I'm your other co-host, Jenny Chung. So June is Pride Month, and we wanted to bring in some of our really good friends, Parth Patel and Tim Zhang. So identity plays a big role in a person's life, and there are many facets to it. So we wanted to do an episode specifically in June where we explore intersectionality of identities and how it affects different aspects of our life or our adult life. So we'll definitely talk about different aspects of professional life, sexual orientation, and then the nuances of what it means to be Asian American.
Yeah. So to start off, Parth and Tim, can you just introduce yourselves to our audience? You could kind of include your pronouns, how you identify, sexual orientation, and just like general background, kind of what you've been up to.
Hey guys, I'm Tim Zhang. I'll start. I'm a project analyst for Kimley Horn. Kimley Horn is a consulting firm. We're now celebrating 14 years of being on Fortune 100's best companies to work for. I graduated in May 2019 from Stevens Institute of Technology. During my time there, I was editor for the Chi Epsilon Honor Society, and I was part of the SACE chapter, SACE Stevens chapter. I was the external relationship chair there, and I was serving on the NERC 2018, I believe, committee to help get that conference set up. I'm currently living in Harlem, New York with my wonderful husband, Marcel.
Okay, marriage.
Yeah.
Okay, Parth.
Hey, man.
Okay,
Hi, everyone. My name is Parth Patel. My pronouns are he, him. I am an associate project manager working for Amgen Pharmaceuticals, and I've been with them for about a year and a half. So before I got into Amgen Pharmaceuticals, I studied biomedical engineering and graduated from the class of 2018. And a lot of my college career and post-college career was in SACE. So I was president of class of 2018. And then I stayed 2 years post RCPC, just hanging out with friends and just really enjoyed the community that I had. And then now I am currently living in Rhode Island, and I am single, so no husband yet. Single, yay!
Thank you guys for the introduction.
Of course.
Yeah, you hear that, listeners? Parth is single, so
Please find
hit
them.
him
I'll
up.
drop my Twitch, my Instagram.
Yeah.
You can find them all here. The video editors are gonna like pop them in, so don't worry.
Oh.
He wants to be a brown sugar baby.
Ooh. You send me your resume on LinkedIn?
True. I guess before we get into more of the in-depth conversation about kind of identity and stuff like that, I guess I was just curious on how you both chose your career path. I know you're both like involved in STEM, and so what was that like? And was there like a pressure from family to do STEM in general, or was that something you just knew you wanted to do?
Do you want to start, Parth?
Yeah. So my direction with STEM was kind of like very convoluted. So my dad is a chemical engineer, and so that had like a lot of influence on me growing up. So he was able to leave kind of like farmland, India, very poor, all that through studying chemical engineering, leaving that type of lifestyle, getting his master's in chemical engineering, and then establishing roots for my family to grow and develop here. On the other end, there's kind of like a conflict between me and my father that we reminisce on, where he thought I couldn't do engineering because I wasn't really focused in high school. And I spent most of my time watching a lot of Scrubs and Grey's Anatomy and House. So I was like, F you, dad, I do engineering. And so I ended up becoming a biomedical engineer. So I was still watching like a lot of Scrubs throughout college as well, like those shows. And then halfway in, I was like, yeah, I'm going to become a doctor. This is going to be great, med school. Took my first cell bio class, and I'm just like, I want to leave. I just don't want to do this anymore. But I was stuck in my degree. I was like, okay, might as well just graduate with it and like try my best. And then my personality is like conflicting with each other.
So for me, I actually came to Stevens as a visual arts major, for those who didn't know that. So I did get a lot of pressure from my parents to change to an engineering major because they were saying like arts aren't going to get you any money. Like I'm sure everyone's familiar with that type of mentality. So I think it was my sophomore year after my first co-op, I ended up switching to civil engineering, and that's actually one of the things I loved about Stevens, that because of the co-op program, it actually like allowed you to get that work experience and like figure out what you liked. And I ended up liking land development, which is a part of civil engineering that it's kind of like how it sounds. You help clients, developers, you help them develop projects. Nothing in the building, just around the site, because you're a civil engineer. But I think it was the closest to something artsy that I could find, and also I think the companies that I've worked for have allowed me to get into that creative side of myself. So, for example, one of my second co-ops, I worked at Stonefield Engineering, and they ended up letting me take the headshots of like 20 people there, which is really cool for me. And then now at Kimley Horn, during my first year there, I actually designed the cornhole board that we use in AutoCAD, and I thought that was
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. So
Wait, did I hear that? Cornhole?
Cornhole.
cornhole? Yeah,
What
that
is
The
game
thing
with
where you
the
toss
you,
the
you toss the bag, the hacky
yeah,
sack bag.
it's like a drinking game, kind of. Not really.
Yeah.
Like a back,
Doesn't
like
have
a
to be a drinking game.
like a back. Oh, it's like a backyard game. Yeah. But it's more commonly seen in like frat like
Yeah,
environments.
it's a very frat white people type sport, but also I like just being creative in different ways. I think the companies I've worked with have allowed me to do that, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. That's really cool that like you fit that in. I feel like I'm doing civil engineering too, and it seems like we're kind of like that old engineering, like really separated apart from like any of that like creative side of work. It's actually funny too. I was actually looking at Kinley Horn like for co-ops and stuff, and I feel like the common consensus was that like the culture was just great, like at all their different locations and stuff. So it's really cool to hear that like you found that too. I guess I was wondering also, I know Parth, you mentioned how you kind of balance like trying to look deeper into like your identity more during college. So how do you think that kind of like helped shape your career now, like post college?
I think it made it easier to network in a sense of, while I was trying to figure out, my gender and sexuality identity of like the person I want to become in the future, I focused mostly on just utilizing like dating apps to meet people in the city, because I was like, okay, the city where me and Tim went to school in Hoboken, it's only a 15-minute train ride to get into New York. And there's always something to do in the city. So I always use that as an excuse of like, okay, let me use these apps to meet people, do things that I never really had the opportunity to do growing up. So a lot of it was like visiting art museums, coffee shops, bookshops, concerts, and all this stuff. And so I kind of reshaped my mind where I was like, okay, as I'm going through like these dating apps, meeting all these people, trying to figure out type of person I'm like attracted to, what I'm confident in, it helped me build more of my social skills, helped me have more tangible conversations and realize, what are the strengths that I want to articulate when I'm meeting new people or trying to have a conversation. And even if I'm encountering someone that, hey, we're not clicking very well, we're not, we don't have the chemistry or connecting well, how do you keep that professional surface level, like respectful surroundings in an environment, but also politely decline anything, after that. So a lot of my college time was like split between, okay, I'm gonna go and study and do stuff, and then I'll figure out career stuff later. And then I utilized kind of like the SACE network to be like, okay, there's a career fair, I'm just gonna go network, go to nationals, go find people to hang out with, and kind of build my network to, hey, if I don't get a job here, it's not the end of the world. I could always get a referral, get some like internships here and there. And so that's kind of the mindset I've had, is just focusing more on how I could articulate to people, and like building that out through dating and like meeting people really helped me elevate when I talk to a lot of directors at my current company. As a project manager, I sit in meetings the entire day, and normally people that aren't used to talking and to screens or people would feel very exhausted, but it kind of gives me a lot of energy. So I was like going throughout the day, just talking about different things, communicating, okay, how do I appeal to this person who's not really clicking with what I'm trying to communicate, or vice versa. So going through a lot of rejection, going through putting yourself out there helped me build a lot of confidence of being comfortable like with who I am, even if I'm not in a room with people that I'm fond with, or if they're fond with me, I could still kind of have my best foot forward and still keep it very professional and stay true to who I am.
That's a really good answer. I think also for me too.
Wow, good job.
Dating apps,
Great interview
dating
question.
apps are also dating apps are also like becoming more networking type things. I guess in my experience as well, I've had the same experience where it's like, okay, like I'm meeting up with this person. We don't end up like clicking in that way, like romantically, but they still end up being a connection that I have on either like social media or whatever, and then like we'll still be able to like talk about just other things, and then just like an additional person in my network. So that's so funny.
I had someone who like so we matched on Tinder, and like they were studying pharmaceuticals in Rutgers, and then I was still doing engineering nonsense at Stevens. So then we're like talking, move off the app, we're texting, and they asked like, oh, let's hang out in Hoboken and free this weekend. We meet up, and I kid you not, this person talked about pharmaceuticals the entire time. Like, oh, what do you do for like, oh, you just came back from like a workshop. How was your day? What are you up to? Like, oh, I was studying for my pharmaceutical exam. And then before that, I was like hanging out with my pharmaceutical friends. I'm in a pharmaceutical frat. And this happened for like the entire date, to the point where like I'm sitting here, I'm like, is he going to talk about anything else? I was like, okay, let's talk about family. How'd you get into pharmacy? What is your family like? Oh, my dad's a pharmacist. My sister might go into pharmaceutical research. My mom is like acupuncture, like herbal medicine type, but like she's very into like wellness and like pharmacy stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. So we get to go get bubble tea, still on the same date. And he asked me, he's like, oh, hey, I'm kind of curious. What does an engineer's resume look like? And I just like hysterically am laughing. I'm just like, you're asking me what my resume looks like on a date? It's like, what? He pulls out his phone and shows me his LinkedIn. He's like, look at my LinkedIn. This is what I do. He pulls out his resume on his phone. He's like going line by line, like, oh yeah, so I did this, and then this is where I interned, this is where I interned, and like I did this. And I'm sitting here, I'm just like, what is happening? Like,
Oh no.
what is actually happening here?
Oh my God. He just goes on these dates to get endorsed by all.
Basically, yeah.
Like endorse me on
Honestly
LinkedIn.
thought, like, yeah. Can you please write like a nice review on my LinkedIn and like communication skills after this event? There's too many people that are like that, to be honest, which is very odd.
Yeah. No, it's really cool to hear that you were very, I guess, like intentional with like what you thought you were getting out of like all these meetups and stuff. I feel like in a world where it's like so accessible, like I feel like I don't hear that often. It's more of like, oh, it's just like in the palm of my hands. I'm just going to go to meet people. But like you're really thinking about like your growth and like what you're looking for and like what you think is important, and weeding out knowing that you don't want to have someone who's going to be talking about pharmaceuticals 24/7 too. So really cool to hear that. Tim, do you think that you had like a similar experience like with like your identity shaping like a career, and like what that helped you with like after graduation?
After graduation, I actually like got married to Marcel, who I'd been living with for like 2 years, but it was, kept more on the down low because under the Trump administration, it was very hard for him to like get his work visa renewed. So I was really in love with him. He was really in love with me, and we didn't want to separate from each other. So we didn't want to take that chance from the lose that or have his work visa expired, and he'd have to go back home to Bolivia. So that was my experience. But pre-Marcel, I think my experience dating, I didn't really correlate my dating world to my professional world. When I was dating, I was purely looking for romantic connection. I wasn't doing it to find a network. It was, is this person compatible with me? Do I see a future with this person? If not, I move on. I was very logical about it. I didn't want to waste time with someone I knew I wasn't going to spend a good chunk of my life with anyways.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I guess like I guess as we're still talking about like work and stuff, I know that like some companies have like employee resource groups and stuff like that, where like people can kind of like, I guess, come together as a group for like, there's like queer ones, there's like Asian ones. I'm trying to think of the other ones, like other groups and stuff. Do those groups exist in your workplace? And Or if not, did you ever felt a need in your company to like come out to coworkers or anything, or like talk about your experiences with workers? Because I know like some workspaces, some people are more like, some spaces are more like it's just a cultural thing where they're like people are close to each other and stuff like that. So I'm just curious as to like what your work experience has been like, and if you had to like share like personal details about your life with them in that way.
So for Kimley Horn, the biggest like I guess minority group that we have is it's called Lift. It's for primarily women engineering to empower them, give them a voice in our company. But I haven't really seen any for all the other minorities. We do have a D&I group, a diversity and inclusion group. Their role is more, to be that voice for everyone else. And given this past year with the BLM, the Asian hate crimes, all the bad stuff that's happened this past year, I think the D&I group has been a lot more active in trying to understand the minority inside my company's experience, their perspective. I actually was part of a diversity and inclusion discussion where two of the, I believe they were like regional leadership hosts, and they just sat back and listened to our struggles, our perspectives, and it was so the group that I was in was just for Asians, and they had like 10 of these groups across the nation, and I think it was every minority you can think of. It was blacks, it was Muslims, gays, Asians. I just chose to be part of the Asian one. You can only choose one, so it was really, I really liked how everyone was being very vulnerable and like they were speaking their truth, positive or negative. And the hosts were very, very eloquent about it. They were, very, they sat back, they listened, they didn't try and, say what they thought, say their opinions. They wanted to take all our stories, our comments, concerns, whatever they may be, and, compile them into one big folder, however you want to think about it, and have a discussion among leadership, like how do we fix these problems? Are there problems we can fix? What can we do about this? I thought that was really nice because over the past year, I honestly, I felt like Kim Lee Hoon was just being very reactive with like the emails we've been sending. Oh, we support you, we're so sorry that BLM is going on, we're so sorry that these Asian hate crimes are going on, but there's no actual action. But yeah, that discussion I view very positively.
Gotcha. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
So I don't know. I have like I had similar experiences. I think, well, similar but also not. Like the first company I worked for once I graduated, it was like a small bioengineering company, and they had a very performative type of view on all this. Where like, oh yeah, ERG groups are there and all that, but it's not really supportive. They don't have conversations about it. It's just like a small, like tiny company, so it didn't feel as inclusive as I wanted it to be, and that was one of the main reasons why I ended up leaving, where it just was very, very heteronormative. I didn't feel like comfortable just even like wearing floral shirts or just like expressing myself in a queer way. And there was one point where like me and my manager had like a little bit of a disagreement where things were just like bringing your identity to work and like how you can't really be true. It's very hard to bring like your identity to a workspace that's not very inclusive or inviting, or having the conversation about it. And his response was one of those things where it's like, it's just work. Like you don't come to work to do like identity and like all this exploration. You come in to like do your job. And I was like, it's kind of bad if you think about it. Like if your worker doesn't feel comfortable, being themselves here, how are they going to do a very good job? Like it should be very supportive. It should be more understanding of how I feel, not just kind of taking my issues or just like my concerns and kind of brushing them off. So after switching to my current company at Amgen, it's very inclusive. They do have like ERG groups, strong diversity and inclusion type of communications and ERG groups you could participate in. One of the great things is like for Pride Month, I volunteered to like kind of make like a little postcard that we send out to everyone in our department that kind of brings out the history of Pride, what it was without rainbow washing it, without washing it through like social media or making it very, very like twisting the historical facts of how Pride came to be. So I was very happy that they didn't want to they want to keep it very factual and kind of show that side of like what happened throughout history. But at the same time, like it's very difficult balancing out like getting your day job done and also like participating in like the ERG groups and just like being able to network in that type of environment where yeah, the groups are there, but at the same time, like how does one fit it into their schedule when you have like millions of things that you're trying to do? And it also kind of feels like work at times. So a part of me is very polarized. Where like, hey, it's nice that it's there, but it's also like work.
Mhm.
It's a lot of effort and energy you have to go into it and have that discussions, be vulnerable. It's a lot of energy that you're disposing to a corporation versus like, okay, yeah, I could just like log off, hang out with my friends, or hang out with like a more comfortable network that I feel very included in.
That is true.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. I think with company led things, even for the company that I work at, it's like they release statements and stuff and it's like a performative thing for them, but
Mhm.
also they do try. I don't think in my work environment, I don't even have casual conversations with my coworkers where I'm like, oh, like, hey, like, how are you? How's your family? Or stuff like that. Cause like we don't have time to discuss that
Mhm.
during the workday when we have like, cause I'm all in virtual meetings and it's just like, oh, we have 30 minutes to talk about this one topic. Like we have no time to, not that I don't care about you and your family.
Yeah.
But like there's no time to bring it up, and so like for me
Yeah.
it's never like I don't think my anything in my personal life has never come up except when I was in the office and like we would have like water cooler conversations kind of, right? So
Mhm.
it's like
Mhm.
Mhm.
different in a virtual environment. And also I remember, I guess for me in my experience, where I dress more androgynously. So I think it's like kind of like a very fluid thing for me. And so when I go in the
Mhm.
office or when I do an interview, even for my first day of work, I think I wore a full on suit because I was like, I don't know what the vibe is. But I
Right.
was like, oh, this is kind of like my way of like expressing who I am by like how I
Mhm.
dress
Mhm.
because I'm not gonna wear like a name tag that says like, oh, like this is how I identify. Like I just want to express that I am trying to like be fully me in whatever environment
Yeah.
that I'm working in. So yeah, that's I feel like for most work environments, it's usually like that's the case. And if you're comfortable dressing whatever way that you want, like that's like a pretty like good environment to work in. Because I know that there are some, like you mentioned, that where people just don't feel comfortable just like
Mhm.
dressing the way they want. Yeah.
I think that's a good point too. Like, I think a lot of companies will just kind of hit like their diversity and inclusion, like check marks or anything. Like, oh, are
Mhm.
we making sure that we're hiring this much? But like, there's so much more to like, say about like giving people a supportive place and feel like they're listened, feel like they're comfortable. Like, not to make it sound like a very capitalist thing, but like people feel a lot better about their work, feel like more inclined to like stay there, be like productive, whatever, like that. Yeah. But I think that's also a good point too, Part, that you were mentioning that like all of these like task force and all of these like meetings and stuff, it takes a lot out of the people who like those groups are supposed to be supporting for it. So it's I
Mhm.
don't know. I always question that a lot too. Like we had something for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, but it's like leaning heavily on the people who are like in that Asian community. It's good that there is a platform for it. I feel like there should be a better way that's like supporting us, but not putting that like burden and that work on us. Especially like
Mhm.
you're saying too, it's like on our free time. Like I'm not charging this company. I'm doing this because I think it's a good thing, but it takes a toll on you, and it's like or like I could be better spending my time if I really wanted to as well.
And
So
to that point, Jason, I back in the summer of 2020, when BLM protests were, really huge, our office tried to start like a D&I group, a diversity and inclusion group, and we wanted to gather interest in who wanted to be there, and who wanted to, talk about diversity and inclusion, and nothing really came of it. But when I spoke to my office leader about 2 months ago, he made a point in saying that the person that's going to be able to like push that is going to be you be me, because I'm like the minority in the office. I'm the Asian, I'm gay, and it's gonna be on me. And I understand that because it's not going to look good for like a very privileged white person to speak about being Asian, speak about being minority, being discriminated against. That's very awkward, right? But to your point, it is taxing for me to try
Mhm.
and
Right.
lecture others on what I've been experiencing for now 25 years. It's hard. I think for companies, like, I don't expect them to experience everything we experience, but
mhm.
being there to listen, being there to truly understand what we're going through so that they can help be part of the solution rather than being part of the problem. That's where I think is really important.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. That's why we need more like diverse people in upper leadership, right?
For sure.
Right. Because it's at the end of the day, even for like Asian American Heritage Month and now like Pride, it's not our job to educate you. Like there are resources out there that you can, read and stuff. And I think people are trying to become more educated in that sense. But in the beginning, it's like, can you explain this to me? Like, why should I? Not that I don't want to, but it's like I'm so exhausted of being already the minority and trying to like do my job and work my way up the ladder to like be where people say I could never be, right? And like you want to add on to all of this stuff with me trying to help you to understand how you could treat me better. It's just like it's a whole cycle, but I think like they have the right like mindset. I think they're trying to take the first step, and I think that's the easiest way in their mind, which might be the best case. Because I don't have the answer. Like I don't know what the best.
Yeah,
how the best
they have good intent, but they don't
good intent.
know how to execute. They don't know how to execute.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so I just want to say thank you both for sharing like your professional experiences and how it also intersects with your identity and stuff like that. I guess like moving into like I guess more personal about your identity. So just wanted to ask like how you like got to your exposure with like your identity and how you were able to become comfortable in your identity growing up and like how that mindset has changed with you and your experiences with that.
What a loaded question.
I know. I'm sorry.
Well, I knew I was gay pretty early on in my life. Probably sometime in elementary school, I knew I was gay. I didn't know what gay was, but I knew that I liked guys. Like I would always be looking at the boys. I thought the boys were more attractive than the girls. I was like, okay, something's wrong with me, or maybe like I'm not like at the age where I prefer girls yet. So something's up. But in high school was the time that like I was like, okay, definitely gay. The summer before my senior year of high school, I came out to my best friend in high school, and from there I started becoming more comfortable. But at my school there weren't any other queer, gay, bi people at all, so it was hard for me to like be myself, because number one, I didn't know what myself was, and also I didn't have anyone like me that could relate to me, that could understand my own struggles. So I ended up being, very, very lonely, very isolated up until college at Stevens. I wasn't that social freshman year. I kept to my own little dorm circle. But I think in sophomore year, I became more active in the Stevens community, and I found out like, oh my God, there's more gays. But not that many gays, because it's still an engineering school. But more gays than in high school. And I was like, oh my God, there are other people like me. And it wasn't until I went to my first Pride parade, New York City Pride parade, in like 2016 or 17. I don't remember which one was my first, but just being surrounded by everyone who just like doesn't give a shit, and they're just being themselves, being who they are, kissing whoever they want, dressing however they want. They were just fully themselves, completely comfortable, smiling, happy, celebrating, rainbows flying in the air. And I just like, that was just such a nice moment for me, because I realized, oh my God, it's okay. It's finally okay. Like I belong in this world. Like I have a place here. And like that's one of the reasons why I love Pride. I think sometimes it's a little overdone, but hey, like screw it. It's our 1 month that we can be. And we as a community have been silenced for so long. So that's my perspective.
I kind of had the same type of like mindset too, where it wasn't until college where you had the sense of like, I had the sense of like liberation of like, oh my God, I'm finally around people not being like policed by parents, culture, all that stuff. I'm finally around a very open environment where I could slowly take baby steps into figuring out what is the best way of going through what I want to go through, right? And I think my experience, similar to Tim's, is like the second I went to like my first Pride parade, it was insane. I just was so happy. I was like talking to people and just like seeing all the people dancing, and just the amount of like love in the air, where it didn't matter whoever you were. It's just like you will be loved, you're always appreciated and invited and always supported. That fueled a lot of confidence within me. And I've always been someone who's been actively reading on current topics that are happening across the world, social justice and books and all that. So I use that fuel that I got from Pride events and just understand more nonprofits within the community and within the city as well. So as I mentioned earlier, okay, I'm going to be on dating apps and all of that, figure out who I want to be. But it wasn't until I started reading more books written by queer people, understanding the history, where I got a better sense of the community and started engaging with people that were dancers that went out clubbing or had spoken word poetry or had like book seminars or just different things like that, making it very, very active and like kind of learning from others of, okay, this is how you went through your journey. This is what you experienced with your parents. How do I understand you as an individual better and learn from your, I guess, trauma or your journey and use that as a way to reflect on myself and continue to move forward. So I think there's like, what's nice about the queer community is that I'm realizing now, or been coming to realization, is that a lot of us that identify or within the community have kind of like a deep set of like trauma that like we get closer with other queer people because we can relate, have a safe zone of talking about just how growing up we were never ourselves. We always had to hide ourselves because we wanted to be safe. We wanted to not get bullied in high school, not feel isolated or feel that we might endanger ourselves or our family or whomever around us. And then just kind of coming to the realization of like, hey, how do we dismantle that? How do we support and become more educated so that for the next generation, it's easier for them? And that's like kind of like the things that I learned from like talking with people that were, that came out during like the 1980s and faced a lot of discrimination to a lot of the younger kids these days. It's just different generational gaps and like what can we learn from each other as a community?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I've also had a similar experience. I think like going off of what Tim said, like in the beginning, I just didn't have the terminology of like how to express kind of like what I was feeling or toward other people that wasn't like the norm when like all my peers and stuff were like easily dating each other. I'm like, why and how? Like, why? I don't like you like that. But then like as I kind of I guess like progressed through school, I'm like, oh, I kind of also repressed it a bit. There's a lot of repression because I was like, oh, I don't want to feel this way or it's not normal. So like, why should I? And so I would like bury myself with like studying and stuff like that. I was like, oh, I'm focusing on school. That's why I'm not dating, right? That's why I'm not like looking for a relationship when everyone else is dating. And then I think when I got into college, like away from like parents and more like the cultural aspect, and there's meeting more people that are also like similar background and also in being like Asian American in general, because I think that was like the first layer. Like I didn't like being Asian because I grew up in a predominantly white place. So like accepting that part of me was like the first step, and then meeting more like queer people and kind of getting that community of support, I guess, because I don't think I even really like came out or like told people unless they like specifically asked me, but I would like dance around the question up until like later on in my college years because I didn't really know what I was or didn't want to say, because if I said it out loud, it would be real, right? So I think that was really daunting. And then I also went to my first Pride in like 2019 in Boston, and it was great because it was like, wow, there's so many people like me, or like all different shapes, sizes, all different, types of people. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And they're all like super supportive. Everyone's like cheering people on and they don't know me, but like they accept me. And I thought that was just so cool. And yeah, I just, I don't know. I'm like feeling really emotional now. I think like it's great to hear like both of your stories and how similar it is also to mine. I'm sure it's different for everyone as well for like their coming out journey and stuff like that and how they tell like close friends and family. Because personally for me, I don't think I've ever like had a specific coming out. Like I didn't like sit anyone down as like, hey, I'm gay. I never had that. But I think it just kind of like, I was like sprinkling conversations. I was like, oh, like I'm like seeing this person or something.
Yeah.
Or like I'm on this dating app, like in my preferences or something. And then I just kind of like was like, oh, it's like you're this, and there was nothing else said of it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. People are cool with it. But but I guess going off of that, like for both of you, like did you both have like that coming out talk with close friends or family, and how did that go? And was it different based on like the person you were coming out to? Because I know that's probably a different conversation, right?
Yeah,
if it's like, yeah.
it's absolutely different depending on the person. My first person that I came out with, like I said, was with my best friend in high school, and I was too scared to tell him to his face, so I Skype messaged him, and I was like, "Hey, I have something to tell you." Dot dot dot, and it was like really ominous, and he's like, "Oh my god, what's going on?" I'm like, "I'm gay," and then he just like, I just saw him the three dots on Skype, just typing forever. I'm like, he sent this like really sweet message of like, yeah, he's accepts me no matter what. Like he doesn't care. It's like it's not gonna affect my relationship with him. And like that, I was really appreciative of that. And like as that was my first time coming out, but then like throughout my senior year of high school, I ended up coming out to more people, and then it just became easier. It was just like, yeah, I'm gay, blah blah blah. And in college, like honestly, at some point, I think I just like did something really extra, and people just assumed I'm gay. Like I'm just like yes, and like you just know, okay, he's probably homosexual, but I think like to the more harder part about coming out, I actually came out to my mom early last year, like right before COVID. And again, I was like too scared to tell her to her face, so I like left her a voicemail like, "Hey, I'm gay. I like men. Like I know this is like not what you and dad envisioned for me, but this is who I am, and I live with Marcel." And she actually didn't respond to me for a whole week, and then she ended up calling me, and she was like, "How long did you know?" Like she asked like very like ignorant questions, but it's to be expected. She didn't know anything about like what it is to be gay. She asked like she basically wanted to ask like who's the top and who's the bottom. It was like really awkward. I'm just like, I'm not gonna answer that. And then she's like, "How long did you know?" And like I said, I knew I was pretty young. And she's like, "Are you happy?" And I said, "Yes, I'm happy." And like after that conversation, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have a good relationship with my parents. It's possible. But then, every single time, like I would talk to them or like I would visit them, they like pretended that that part of me just didn't exist, that Marcel didn't exist, and like that it's very hurtful, and like it's pretty toxic in my eyes. Like my family still talks about like when is he gonna get a girlfriend? When when is he gonna get married? Like meet some kids soon, and like it's not just that it hurts, it's just like the fact that they can't even acknowledge it is what makes me just like I can't like associate myself with my parents like too often. The last time I saw them was for my grandma's funeral. I did it out of respect for her, but I don't think I can have a casual relationship with them until they can at least acknowledge the fact that I'm gay and I have Marcel.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know that usually with family, it's very difficult, especially if you're in a really serious relationship. That it's just easier to distance yourself from family rather than trying to fight for more of them to understand, because it is really hard. I think most of it's sometimes a generational thing or just like a cultural thing. It's very hard to do that. So it's like picking your battles on how. But I personally, I don't even know what to say, because I personally haven't even told my parents as well, because I don't know how they'll react.
Right.
But it's just a different conversation, definitely with parents than with like closer friends, for sure. Yeah, and especially if you don't speak or you don't have the language, or like if they speak a different language too, right? Like personally for
Sometimes there's a
me,
language barrier. Like you don't know
right?
how to say certain things in your language. I speak Fujianese, so coming out was like a little
Oh,
awkward.
same.
Oh, you do?
Wait, I'm Fujianese. Wait, I'm Fujianese too, but
Really?
I don't speak.
Oh
I
my
don't
god.
speak the dialect that well. So me and my parents just speak Mandarin.
Yeah, it's like
But
Chinglish
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
Fujianese-ish.
Oh, I didn't know you're Fujianese.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it was hard for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah,
some words I just couldn't say in Fujianese.
yeah. I just pull up. There's no really Google Translate for Fujianese. Also,
Yeah,
it's like a dialect,
it's
so it's hard.
mhm.
So my experience is like growing up, it was very apparent with my friends and my cousins, but not for me. I don't know why I was so foolish with like my coming out to like close friends and everything like that. In a sense of like when I first came out to a couple of my cousins, I come from like a big family as well. So a lot of them are based in California, which are more Americanized, more modern with like times. So when I came out to them, we were all at dinner and they're like, "Oh, Parth, what's up? How's it going?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just like seeing certain people." And like I name drop like, "Oh yeah, I'm seeing like XYZ," or I'm like, "I'm dating guys." And there's like, yeah, we figured. And I'm like, wait, what? And I was like dressed like very like normal, like it wasn't very flamboyant or no signs or nothing like that. I was just like very like low key about like how I presented myself. And I'm like, what do you mean? There's like, yeah, we kind of figured like since there's a bunch of so statistically it had to be you or this one, but he's married, so it had to be you. And I was like, what? And they're like, remember the time in Cancun where like you started drinking and then like we asked you and then you got like very quiet and like embarrassed. And so like we just figured that since you didn't really know how to talk about like topics that are like very heteronormative, we just assumed that you were queer or like figuring things out. But all right. And I was just like, wait a minute, this is my moment. Like this is me coming out and like just gonna like end like this. So I was like, I was frustrated, but also like just very like happy because like it made me a lot closer to my cousins in California that we have an age gap and I didn't really see them growing up or we just didn't really bond. So like these days when I visit them in Cali or like in Boston, I feel more comfortable, more myself and to keep you around because we're all that we have. So I'm like, oh, that's very reassuring. I feel much more comfortable now that like you guys are actively talking about it in like a mature way and you guys want to know more and want to be included in what I'm doing. So one of my cousins, they're coming down from Boston to New York and they're asking me like, oh, are there like pride things going on? Can we come with you if you want? Or if you want to join us in Boston, we'll be happy to like go with you just to understand and like be supportive. And that meant a lot to me in the sense of like they want to know about that community so they can be more supportive. And there are times where they call me and be like, what does pansexual mean? Like I thought it was a kitchen thing and I'm like, oh my God. What? And then like it was just like silly things like that. But it was just like it's very refreshing on that end. So I came out to my dad recently back in Thanksgiving of this year. And it was very not intense, but I think the conversation was he definitely was about to cry. He was very heartbroken, very disappointed, and he was polarized in the sense of that he wants to support me as a friend, but also a father, and he just didn't know how to address it. And his mindset was like, A, it's not in the culture, B, your family reputation, C, what are like the people gonna say, all that. And there's a lot of like questions he asked, and he's like, oh, what about like AIDS, HIV, and like all this stuff. And I told him, hey, that's not the life that I live. I'm very safe. I'm very clean. I know from right to wrong, and nothing changed about me. I'm just, in the future, I just want you to know that I envision myself marrying a guy down the aisle. That's what I want. That's what I dream of. And it's going to happen with or without you. My life is very independent with or without you. So I'm glad that I could rip the band-aid off, talk to you about this, but you got to realize I'm going to keep going forward with this. And it's your decision if you want to support me and still keep a relationship, or if not, then I'll just move forward. Bye. But we haven't talked about it. But he hasn't like said anything of like, oh, like bringing it up, being very like against it. I think it's just one of those things where it's like family dynamics. He has a lot on his plate, just trying to juggle. And I think he's like relieved in the sense that I'm getting closer to like my cousins and I'm proving to him I'm being more independent. So I feel confident like over time he'll understand more and be even more supportive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think the case with a lot of parents also is that I was reading a few books recently also. It's like if they accept you, but they're just sad because they know that you'll just go through more like hardships and stuff like that because they moved to America to try to get you an easier life and stuff like that. So it's just like, oh, you're already being discriminated because you're a person of color, you're already a minority, but then this is like an additional layer, right? It's just like, oh, your life is probably going to be a lot harder for you. So they can only do like so much for you, right? And I think that's also, I guess, like going into the intersectionality of being queer and Asian American, like, I guess in terms of like both these aspects of your identity, right? Like how have you felt like being in this space, I guess, like already being like a person of color and then like adding this, like how has that affected you and your mindset? Or I know we kind of discussed this like in the workplace and stuff like that, but I guess in general, it's just in like everyday life, like how do you navigate that and like put yourself out there in a way? Yeah.
I know for me, like bringing up like the whole loneliness, that was the same issue my dad brought up where he said, when you go down this road, it's gonna be very lonely. You won't have extended family to support you. Your friends won't support you, and like no one's gonna be there because this is not accepted. This is not normal. And I pushed back, knowing that I do have a strong support group and all that. And one thing that he mentioned is like, hey, it's not in our culture. And that pushed me more to kind of change my focus into finding more brown communities that have its supportive, in the sense of like, I believe like my family, a part of my family tends to be a little bit nationalistic with Hinduism. So that ends up being very conservative, very like with their beliefs and everything like that. So finding more brown folks that fall into the queer space, women's organizations that are more accepting, more pushing for that inclusion and platform to leverage each other has been kind of like my main focus. And it's been hard with just like finding people within the same background to talk to and just kind of understanding it. And a part of me is just like, I feel jealous because like I started a couple of brown people that are queer that came out, and I was talking to them and they're telling me how like accepting their family are and how supportive, and they understand, they're like very modernized. Just made me feel so bad about like my upbringing. I'm just like, oh, I kind of wish I had that. Like I like having the familial vibes. I want to have like that warm embrace of like, hey, I could bring my partner to my family and he could participate in the culture and vice versa, and like we'll have that strong sense. But it's very hard to imagine that with the nuclear family, with my parents and grandparents. So that's kind of where I'm starting to learn a little bit more about like chosen family. How do I get that mindset adapted and work towards that community aspect?
Yeah. For me, I used to be like very close to my mom, and nothing would make me happier than to have like a nice dinner with her and Marcel, and like just have a normal conversation. But for them, or for my parents, I feel like they first need to get through the hurdle of their own family reputation. And Parth, you had brought that up a little bit earlier. That the reputation in my family is so important. Like how your kids are doing, how you are doing is a direct reflection on your family. And then the other family members are going to judge you for what you kids bring to the table, what you bring to the table. For them, I feel like if they let everyone else in the family know that I'm gay, they're going to be the ones that are isolated and like made fun of in the family. Like right now, we have like a very high status in my family where we're the more of the wealthier family. Like we all started off like pretty poor, but my parents kind of made it in our family's eyes. So I feel like if they were to finally say, one of our sons is gay, like it would break that image that the whole family has of us. And I think that's what scares them. And like it hurts me too, because like you're scared more about what all the other family members think of you rather than how you should be treating your own son.
Mhm.
That's for me is one of the toughest part about being both Asian and queer. And so the second part of your question about being in the workplace, I think all the struggles that I've gone through like help me progress through professionalism. Like I don't think I'm very quiet. If I have an issue that I strongly believe in, I do voice it. I think traditionally Asians are the quieter group. We don't really voice our opinions, but I think going through being Asian, going through SACE, being queer, if anything, it's made my voice louder when it needs to be. Like I definitely won't take shit if I disagree with it.
Yeah, and don't take shit from anyone. That's right. Yeah, I
What?
grew up in family. No, I was just agreeing
Don't
with
take shit from
him.
anyone.
Yeah, don't take shit from anyone, listener.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a message for whoever you.
Mm.
I was
Yeah.
wondering too, in general, I know you guys kind of mentioned a lot of growing up, you were trying to figure things out and it was like kind of harder, and then eventually leading up to like coming out to like some of your friends or family. Do you think you have like any advice that you would have or that you would want to give to your younger self, knowing like what you know now?
Don't be pressured to come out. I think like once I was like getting close to graduating high school, I'm just like I have to be out already. Like why am I still like this? I'm almost 18. Like I should be comfortable with myself. Just I feel like just go at your own pace. It's not a race. It's your own journey. All those corny cliche lines, but I think it's true. Like you have to do you. You really do. It's your life, and following coming out. If you have people who don't accept you, like that's fine. You're going to find people who love you and accept you and support you for who you are. You just have to get through that tough part in your life, and it doesn't last forever.
I think what I would say to my younger self about this journey is that I would say like reach some sort of like financial stability earlier in life in a job that makes you happier. So finding a sense of I like the work that I'm doing, it's supportive and it also pays well. So I could be more independent and have a safe space without the fear of being kicked out at a young age or the fear of being homeless, which is a common occurrence with a lot of LGBTQ youth, and focus on making more friends that you could open up to earlier. So as I completely agree with what Tim said. It's just like, hey, it's your own pace, but don't let it weigh on you as like a secret. Find friends that you could be proud to share it with, but also have a strong mindset of how do I become independent and be able to survive on my own first, and then start communicating to like family or whomever to make sure that you'll be safe.
I know the question wasn't to me, but I would also like to answer. I think that if I was talking to my younger self, I would say, don't hate yourself too much. I think,
Agree.
yeah, I think that, just it's okay to be different, and you will find a community of friends that you will become really close to, and that you can talk about anything with, and just know that you will not be alone. I think that that's something I would have loved to hear when I was younger.
Yeah, screw being the same.
Yeah, it's okay to be different.
Be unique. Be yourself.
Yeah.
I kind of feel envious with like the younger kids these days, in a sense of like there's so much more representation than
Yeah.
what we
I
had growing up.
agree. Oh my god.
Like I
All the
remember I had the hot
TikToks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
like YouTube videos on TV, mainstream
YouTube.
media, and
Mhm.
like I remember everything I needed to do would be like on Tumblr. So I'd have to like have like
Oh.
two separate Tumblrs or like things like that. One's like your normal stuff,
Oh,
and then
normal.
one's
And
like
then one's like the secret.
yeah.
The secret, very sexual one.
No, what? Yeah,
What?
probably.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
Never mind.
yeah.
Dang,
It
this is
has-
a
it has to
safe
be.
podcast.
Cut.
Hey, no, you gotta keep it in here. That's part of being
Yeah, I'll
queer.
keep that in. You're right.
This
you're
was
right.
organic. This was
I
natural.
think. Yeah.
Wait,
I think
oh, you said I heard something
organic.
else.
Yes,
Okay.
organic. Oh no.
Head out of the gutter. Head out of the gutter.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I'm very envious. I think like even when I was growing up, like it was kind of like the YouTube era where like a lot of people were posting like coming out videos on YouTube
The It
or like
Gets
their
Better
journey
videos.
that gets
Have you
better.
seen
Yeah, so those were
Yeah.
kind of the start, but there's definitely a lot more resources and a lot more like couples channels of like people of all
Mhm.
different types of backgrounds, because it used to be more, I feel like, predominantly white, I think.
White
Yeah,
cis
I
face.
agree.
Yeah, more white. And so it was like, oh, none of these people look like me. So like, yes, their journey is like good to hear and stuff like that, but like I can't really relate to them in the sense that like their family backgrounds are different and their school life is different. There's such good content there out now, and I think it makes it a lot easier for people to accept themselves because they see themselves in media and stuff like that. So, and there's more like shows and just like more representation in general, like influencers, right? So yeah, I agree.
Envious, but like, happy that they at least have it easier than we did for coming out.
Jenny, I don't know how you feel, but I guess we can move on to rapid fire stuff.
Yeah, let's move on to rapid fire, but not really rapid fire. We'll see. Questions.
Just the way for us to ask as many questions as we want.
Yeah, because sometimes it goes off a tangent. We'll just see how we go. So Jason, if you want to start off.
Yeah, I guess you were talking about the media and having more representation. So do you guys have a queer role model or someone in the media that you do look up to?
Tan friends.
Ooh, good one.
I don't think I have a specific one. I have like 20 people that I like follow, and I'm like, yes, queen, post that content. I started getting into RuPaul, so like a lot of drag queens I follow now. I'm just like, they're just being so genuinely themselves. So yeah, they're my role models, I guess.
Love that.
Nice. Do you have a favorite Pride song or queer anthem? There's so many. I don't even think of.
There's so many that are labeled as queer anthems.
That's true.
Like
Yeah.
Born This Way, Lady Gaga comes to
Right.
mind.
Classic.
Like
Madonna
any Britney,
stuff.
Britney
Britney.
Spears
Oh,
apparently
Britney.
became a gay
Yeah.
icon.
Hey,
I don't know.
that's my
Dolly
icon.
Parton too, like her
Oh,
songs.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So there's a lot out there. I think it's
Yeah.
just whatever song resonated with the individual the most.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Jenny, also feel free to answer too to any of these questions.
Oh,
Mhm.
I can't think of. I think mine. Yeah, Born This Way is a classic. I'm trying to think of other ones. I'm sure there's a lot. Like I used to listen to a lot of. I have to like pull up a playlist because I have a whole thing of like queer artists that I listen to.
What about you, Jason? I feel like
Yeah. Do you have any?
it's okay
that
to
you're
be
like-
hetero and like gay music.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Really?
all of
Yeah.
those I like. I don't think anything like comes to mind for me, but
Mm.
yeah, all the things that you mentioned, like I feel like
Sounds like a cop-out answer.
Yeah. You're not name dropping any artist. Wow.
Wow.
Damn. Oh, Haley Kiyoko. I forgot. How could I forget about lesbian god?
Oh.
Lesbian God. The first time I heard it was from Lemon Mouth. In the
Oh yeah,
Disney
yeah,
show.
yeah. But I don't think she like came out yet. It was like
Yeah.
after she started releasing
But
her
we
own
knew.
music.
We knew.
Yeah.
The gays knew.
The gays did.
We
know.
sensed it. Our radar
Yeah.
sensed it.
Yeah.
Okay, does Sam Smith count all of his music?
Oh yeah,
I guess because he's
Yeah.
gay.
he's gay.
Just
But-
because he's gay.
All of his music is about like his love with like I don't know. I'm
Oh, I love his
I wrote
vocal.
this question, but I definitely wasn't
Mhm.
prepared for the answer.
Ooh, yeah. I listen to a lot of female artists. I'm trying to think like Fletcher or like the Aces. They all came out recently.
Mhm.
I love them. I guess that's it. I have a whole playlist. You can ask about any listeners if you want it. Let me know.
You know, share it on the Insta.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah. True.
Okay. Next question. Did you have like a first celebrity crush? And it could be
Liam Payne, One Direction. I
Really?
wanted him so bad. Oh, I wanted him so bad. He was all I could think about in high
Art
school.
space.
And I'm just like, oh, he got married to some woman. God damn it. Lost him to the heteros.
It's a no for me. Oh
Like-
my.
Like you know how people like cartoon characters before? You know, like for me it's like like
Oh.
you know all the Sailor Moon or like wait, I was just thinking of someone.
You said
Oh,
the-
like,
Dragon
even
Ball
just, like-
Z, of course.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, they were
Dragon Ball
too
Z.
muscular. They were like grossly muscular. I mean, go
You like
you.
Liam Payne. Like
Don't
you have
judge
yeah,
no-
Parth.
just, like,
What the
screaming,
heck is
like-
this?
Oh my god, someone should do a meme of them screaming and like caption it the bottoming experience.
Oh my god. This is chaotic.
This chaotic energy, I love it.
Or even like Mulan. Like Mulan she's like peak, you know, she could do both. Get you someone who could do both.
Was she peak lesbian energy for you?
Yeah. I was gonna say the same exact.
Yeah. Were you gonna say Mulan?
No, I was gonna say peak.
Peak.
lesbian
Oh,
energy.
I see.
Oh, his
I
crush was
see.
Mulan. He was
Yeah,
straight.
no, I don't think his crush is
Yeah.
Guy Mulan.
How dare you take Guy Mulan?
Okay. I guess that was a pretty good question. Let's see what else we have. What's your favorite thing to do in your free time? I guess if you have free time. Oh, game. He's a gamer.
Draw, exercise, or just like do outdoorsy activities that like, get my
Mhm.
heart rate up. Because
Hmm.
I really like jumping rope. I did gymnastics once. I really want to go back, but then COVID hit, so like that was a struggle.
Hmm.
right.
Athletic
Free
things.
time. Spend money. Does that count?
Yeah.
On
Get
what?
iced
then?
coffee. Just get iced coffee. No.
Mm.
I don't know. Like pre-pandemic, it was a lot of just like going out or just like meeting up with friends or like exploring New York when I lived there. In the pandemic, it was like, oh, I'm gonna be a Twitch streamer, and then that never became a thing. Now I was just like dabbling in hobbies. So like now I'm just reading, which is kind of fun.
Mhm.
What
What
about
would-
you, Jenny? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What?
Oh,
What
I
did
was
you
just
say?
wondering like what you were gonna be streaming when you first were thinking about that.
I tried doing like League and then World of Warcraft, and then I realized like I'm terrible at video games. so me and Tim like we were playing WoW together, and Tim was just like, "You suck! Like you're not even like doing this right. Read this
I didn't
manual."
say that.
Your
I didn't
DPS
see
is
that.
really low. Like, because that's like I was like playing with like his rating guild and all that stuff, and
Oh
I'm just
my
like, I
god,
can't do
his
this.
DPS was like the lowest on the charts. And I'm like, oh
Damn.
no.
For
You're,
those
like,
of you
losing, you're
gamers who
losing to
don't
tanks and
know,
healers.
DPS
And then I
is
tried
damage per
damage.
second.
And then I tried doing like Valorant, and then like that just
Oh,
makes me like jump every time.
I
Like
suck
like
at
the
Valorant.
snipers, like if I die, I just like freak out. Like I spaz a lot. So I'm like, okay, these games like they're not for me. It's good content, but at the same time, like I'm having like anxiety attacks here. Like no, like
Mm.
let's move
But
on to the
that could
next.
be content. Like that.
That
There's
is
a
true.
use
That
for
is
that.
content.
Like someone
Yeah.
getting anxiety attacks when they're getting shot at in
Yeah.
Valorant.
Oh, no.
That's
Oh
content.
god.
Sniper
What
no
sub?
scopes me into an asthma attack. Watch now.
I mean, there you got your clickbait title.
hmm
Mm.
Balloons, does that count as streaming content?
Oh yeah,
Just pop
I
some
stream
balloons.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, balloons. People watch that.
The hell is
Yeah.
Balloons?
Balloon
Balloons,
tower
like the little
defense.
monkeys, they're like you
Oh,
throw the darts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun game. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Parth, do you have a favorite Jenny moment?
This is a hard one because like I always roast her on like how
It's
she
true.
kept on forgetting me when we first met. Like I introduced myself to her like 3 times and she always forgot who I was.
Mhm.
And then I think my favorite moment is like when I first started my first job. I kept on going back and forth to Boston while Jenny was still a senior in college, and I think she threw like a giant party at her place, and I came over and she accidentally got like crossed.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'm here just chilling, like becoming her friends with her friends, and then she's like so out of it. She got mad at me. She's like, you're stealing all my friends. Like you're my friend first, and now you're friends with all my friends. And I'm like,
Parth does
oh
that.
Jenny,
He
you
does
should go
do
to like
that.
go. You should go to like the what's it called? She had like a little balcony, so she got like distracted because like they were hanging out there. She's like, oh, what's happening there? And she like ran off, and I'm like, all right, you do you, girl.
Damn. Yeah, I mean, those are good times. I remember all of them. So I guess for you, Tim, since you've known Parth for a long time, do you have a favorite Parth moment?
Oh man, do I have a favorite Parth moment? I feel like every time I see him, like there's like series of laughters. So I need to like think about what was
It's so wholesome.
what stood
That
out.
is so wholesome.
Yeah,
Best
there's
friends.
Parth and my friend Katharina. Like we were always laughing when we were together. So like I really enjoy hanging out with them. Or what moment really stands out?
Can I go while you think?
Yeah, go ahead.
Where you
So
going?
like so
Oh,
me Tim and our friend Katharina, we went to Punta Cana this one year for spring break, and I don't know how, but like when us 3 are like in a room together, we feed off and like fuel each other's chaotic energy. So like when we were there, we were like we didn't plan this trip at all. We like picked like our friend Katharina picked like she made a PowerPoint of all the places to go and she sent it out. She's like, yeah, everyone read the PowerPoint. It'll be great. We'll have a meeting and talk about it. And we're like, yeah, we'll do this. The day of like us picking the venue and all that, we're just like, this one, yeah, it's the cheapest. Let's just go. And she's like, wait, but the others are like, this one. She's like, the 12-hour layover, that's fine. We could like explore. So we get to the airport. It's a 12-hour layover at night into the morning, so we couldn't go anywhere. And so we started to play like Kings and all that, or like Truth or Dare. And our entire shenanigans is like, I dare you to go to this person and ask for like a handshake and give them your resume, or like I dare you to like buy a chair at IKEA and then build it at the resort and then take it back with you on the plane. So we like this ongoing joke that we're gonna like in Punta Cana go to IKEA and buy furniture and build it. And it was like we don't know like why it was like a thing, but I just remember like my stomach was just like hurting so much from laughing to the point where like I
Yes,
thought like I
that-
just couldn't breathe.
Like hanging out with them is always an ab workout. Like I swear to God, I'm
Aw.
always just in pain, like on the floor. My eyes are red because I'm crying of
So
laughter.
cute.
Of laughter.
Oh.
It's great.
Hmm.
Oh,
Our recent
so
like
cute.
memory, our recent hangout together when we got dinner in Hoboken with our friend
Yeah.
Katharina and our other friend Francine together.
Mm.
And so Katharina was talking about like her new job and all this, and she works for a company called I don't even know what it is.
It's
Vindex.
Vindex, but we call it Windex because it's just easier to remember. And like she's trying to like very seriously explain to us her job, and like she's a tech analyst or something. And I just keep thinking like. So what Vindex does is like they build esports stadiums. It's really fucking cool, actually. And I'm just like, they're gonna go to the esports stadium and like they're gonna be the janitors. They're just gonna clean
What the heck?
with Windex.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm
So the
just like,
entire time.
she's trying to like seriously explain, and I'm just laughing at her face, and it's awful of me, but like that's just our energy.
Aw, that's so cute. Aw, we love friendship. I love it. You guys are cute.
I'm crying already.
Oh.
There are many.
I think-
There are many.
Yeah.
Nothing
Mm.
specific comes to mind.
All of them. All of them are great.
All of them are fun.
There's an ice cream truck in the background. I'm sorry if you hear that.
Oh, dude.
Okay, Jason, you can wrap it up. The last question.
So a couple questions we like to ask before wrapping up the episode is in the theme of the adult table. So what is one thing you did recently that made you feel like quote unquote like real adult? Or like what is one adult thing you wish you knew sooner?
So, my husband and I got that, double male income. So, like, we're looking at like what houses to buy, like, what's feasible for us because we want to. So, there's a lot of things to think about because if you buy a house and you live in it, you get all the perks of like your first home owner benefits. But if you don't and you buy it like simply to rent out to other people, like you lose that benefit. And it's like all these rules and like we're trying to figure that out, but also like buying a house that's within our budget. Like do we want to live there or do we just want to rent it out? So it's like this long discussion, and like that was the first time I'm just like, oh my god, I'm finally like at a point in my adult life where I can consider a house, and that was very adult to me.
Yeah, that's super adult.
Damn, not when you got married.
I mean, I got married 2 years ago. It's not like
fair.
recent. The question was recent.
Oh, sorry.
Come on, Jenny.
God, know your questions.
You're right. I got roasted.
This is a hard one. I don't know. Like so recently I've been doing a lot of research on mattresses, and because like I'm trying to like I want to get a couple of mattresses like for my mom, my brother, and then like just like to help fix up the house like my parents' house that we're renovating. So that was just like kind of like a surreal moment where like my parents are giving me tasks. I'm like, oh, I actually have to like do things or like figure things out. And one of them was like, oh, how do we get like nice mattresses to like fix? And I'm like sitting here researching mattresses for like what's good for your back and like spinal things. And I'm like, this is so weird. I've never had to go into like this detail of like research to find something that's good and then affordable and like how to get it to here and like all this like mind stuff. I'm just like, I don't want to do this. Like, and halfway in, I'm like trying to focus. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna control T YouTube, watch some like streamers or do something else. But like that was like the hardest thing is just like realizing like when you have to focus on like for others around you or like just like for family things and like make like a good investment into something and not just like, okay, I'm just gonna like get by or like that's fine, it's whatever. I'm not gonna be here like temporarily or stuff like that. That and like picking out paint colors. I had to like recently pick out paint colors like 3 times. And we painted like our living room wall and like we were like, okay, we don't like this color. Pick the second one. We don't like that color. And it wasn't until like get 5 samples, put them up on the wall, pick one, and like be satisfied. So like things like that. Running errands takes like the entire day to do.
I feel you. Yeah.
Budget your time and money, people.
True. True.
Adulting tips.
That's adulting tips. Thank you for that. Yeah. So I guess I wanted to say in closing for this episode, happy Pride Month to everyone. So whether you're still questioning, still in the closet, looking for a sense of belonging, those that are out already, like, happy Pride to everyone. Like, you're all valid. Do you. Don't be scared. It'll get better. It will get better. It gets better. And thank you so much to both our guests, for sharing your experiences and being vulnerable with us. I know we covered a wide range of topics in this podcast, and it's always very hard to be vulnerable, especially in a very public forum like this, when you know that it's going to, go out into the internet, interwebs. So yeah, thank you so much, both of you, for sharing and coming on to the Adult Table podcast. Do you guys have any like socials or anything you want to plug for our listeners?
Sure. My Instagram is at _amazing_Tim. So that's THE_AMAZHANG_TIM.
Ooh, good handle. I like it.
I got you.
Love all the puns. There you go.
Mine is how_Parthetic. So HOW_PARTHETIC.
H.
Tick. Yeah. Wait.
Oh, Parth.
Yeah, Parth.
It's
And-
pathetic with Parth instead of
Yeah,
Parth.
there we
Yeah.
go.
We'll
Thanks,
tag
Tim.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
well,
tag
Yay.
it's on the Insta anyway.
Follow the links that will be added here.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
add the
Here,
links.
Yes.
I'm public just for Pride Month.
Oh.
Actually, same. Yeah. I did the same thing.
Really? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing it just for the Pride likes.
Just for pride.
For sure.
Yeah. So to everyone else, don't forget to subscribe so you know when episodes come out, and follow us on our Instagram too. So at the Adult Table Podcast for updates. We also have a feedback forum open where you can give us suggestions for future guests or questions you want answered or any general feedback for us. We'd love to hear from all of you. And you can just check our link tree in our Instagram bio for more information. So I'm Jason Chin.
And I'm Jenny Chung, and we'll see you next time at the Adult Table. Thanks for listening.